Zachary Taylor was once looked at as a national hero for his work in the Mexican-American War. Later in 1848, he was elected to become the 12th President of the United States. Zachary Taylor was born in 1784 in Virginia and raised in Kentucky. His family slowly built wealth on his farm, starting as planters and living in a small cabin to living in a home with the land and over 30 slaves. The Taylor family was held of 3 daughters, 5 sons, and 2 parents, Sarah and Richard. Zachary always had an interest in military, following his father, Richard, who had served as a lieutenant colonel in the American Revolution. In May 1808, at the age of 23, he became an officer in the U.S. Army. He ended up being in the military for 40 years. At the age of 60, he was a military leader in the Mexican-American War. Taylor won a very important battle for the U.S. and was seen as a national war hero. Once his wartime was done, he then settled at home. Being seen as an unexceptional and efficient man, the two political parties, the Whigs and the Democrats, were both interested in him running as their presidential candidate. Zachary was hesitant at first, but with many efforts by the Whig Party, he was convinced to run. With the Whigs being on the northern side against slavery and having a strong federal government, Taylor was convinced. Zachary ran against Lewis Cass of the Democratic Party and Martin Van Buren of the Free Soil Party. By the year of the election, his wife, Margaret Smith, and him have been together for 38 years. She wasn't too fond of him running for president. The day of the elections, November 7, 1848, all Americans had the privilege to vote on the same day. One main reason Taylor won is because he lacked in a clear political opinion, which the public felt more comfortable with. Taylor was not pro-slavery, although he owned 80 of his own in his Louisiana land. He didn't see a reason into spreading the racial division in the United States. But what were the positives and negatives of his presidency? Let's start with the positives. While in office, Zachary was able to gain the respect of northern and southern states. He also always fought hard to keep the country balanced and together. He also urged California and Mexico to apply for statehood and to balance slavery. Lastly, he got tough with the southern states by threatening to veto the Compromise of 1850. People tend to look at Zachary as a more forgettable president rather than a bad one, so there wasn't too many negatives. Only a few facts: that he was against slavery yet owned slaves, and he was considered an Indian fighter. Taylor's presidency came to a quick end after only 16 months in office. In 1849, he died of chorea morbis brought on by gas and exacerbated by unsanitary conditions.